So the best way to come up with how much you're going to spend is to come up with similar recipes, come up with how many ingredients you realistically need, and then budget down and funnel down to those ingredients. And then also think about how many people you have in your family. The best way to grocery shop, because there is a best way of grocery shopping, is shopping on Wednesday. So when you go to a grocery store, they get all of their new produce in Wednesday evening. So if you shop Wednesday morning, they're actually trying to get rid of produce, and that's when a lot of sales are going to happen, or that's when produce can be cheapest. So if you know you want something expensive like Honeycrisp apples, go on a Wednesday. They're getting in new apples that day, so you can get all of the produce that you want, typically marked down at a really good price. On top of that, if you say you have to go on a Thursday, so the prices are a little bit higher, you want to ask your grocery store for seconds. And seconds means I want to see the produce that might be ugly, that might be slightly bruised, that might be just a little bit soft. And it's still great produce. It's still going to taste great. The nutrients are still just as important in those as they are in good-looking food, but they know they can't turn those foods over. Tips and tricks for eating on a budget, but getting good produce or getting good foods. I love a seasonal food guide app. You can Google it, upload it to your phone, whatever you like, but it tells you what's in season for what part of the country that you're in. So California and Texas going to be very different. But the best part about that is you get to see what is going to be cheaper because it's in season in your state, and so there is a surplus of it. For example, if you want to get Honeycrisp apples right now, they're probably going to be $9 a pound because they were in season in October. They're not in season right now. Another option for looking at your entire month and you're thinking about budgeting and how much money you want to put towards food, if this is your first time ever doing that and you truly have no idea where to start, I highly recommend looking at kidseatincolor.com. It has an entire meal plan set for families. So my favorite one is Affordable Flavors Meal Plan. It teaches kids how to eat with a ton of color on their plate, but you're not spending more than $500 a month. Kids don't look at their plate in any other way than there's just food on their plate. They don't have an association with good and bad. An Oreo and an apple is the exact same thing to them. So when you put these different foods on their plate, they're going to start testing them out. They may just touch them every once in a while, but then they'll start putting them in their mouth and then they'll start going, okay, maybe I like bell peppers. What I like to do is my son loves pesto. And pesto is really easy to make. Basil is really cheap. You can get it at any grocery store and you can whip it up really easily. And I'll do chickpea pasta and I'll give him pesto and add in a little wilted spinach because he can't tell the difference if it's in the pesto. And then I'll add steamed broccoli for the side. And the broccoli is more just to get him used to it being on his plate than anything else. But he'll devour the pesto and he has no idea he just ate an entire serving of spinach and basil on top of that, and he got all of the nutrition from getting chickpea pasta. So my son is a toddler, he's 2 years old, and again, I mentioned he's very into how things feel right now. Texture is really interesting to him. So he will cook with me. Sometimes it's hit or miss because he just wants to put his hands in everything, and sometimes that means throwing things, which is very exciting for him. But he loves to stir, and there's actually some great little knives that are plastic knives that he can chop with, but he can't cut himself with. So if he is excited and he wants to be in the kitchen with me, I have this little stand that I use and he climbs up next to me and I'll give him a job to do. Right now, the safest job for him to do is if I use a KitchenAid, he can drop things into the bowl. But he could also help me with things like putting pasta into a pot of water and learning that you can't get too close, you can't be too far away. And then he gets excited to eat something that he makes. He also doesn't really understand the distinction between vegetables and fruit and things like that. So he just thinks we're putting in really good ingredients that makes a recipe really yummy. And so that's a really good building block for a child because then they don't know, ew, broccoli is gross. They think, oh, broccoli is an ingredient and it made my pasta greener today. So if you want to cook with your kids, 1, be realistic about how messy your kitchen is going to be. 2, I highly recommend getting the simplest recipe you can and then giving them one job to do. And it's a job that they can't hurt themselves, they can't burn themselves, and they can't mess up your recipe. And then 3, let them taste test everything while they're making it. Because part of why we love to cook is we get the smells, and those smells really incorporate into our taste buds as well. So if you give them the opportunity to taste it, then they're actually seeing something that they're making, and that relationship with food gets stronger and stronger. Whether it's fruits, vegetables, grains, whatever it is, they're getting a better relationship with their food.